She didn't just reject you, she exposed you. In front of everyone, she held up your heart, your devotion, your desperate need for her approval, and she showed the world how little it was worth. That moment wasn't a breakup. It was a public execution of your social value. You stood there frozen, as her words cut through the noise of the room, each one a perfectly aimed blade designed to bleed you of every last drop of dignity. She didn't just leave you. She dismantled you piece by piece and left your component parts scattered on the floor for everyone to see. You weren't a man to her anymore. You were a problem to be solved, an inconvenience to be discarded, and she did it with the cold, efficient precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. And the worst part? The silence that followed her words. The eyes that shifted away from yours, not out of pity, but out of a shared, unspoken agreement with her verdict. A single, soul-crushing moment. You became invisible. Your worth, which you had so foolishly placed in her hands, had been declared bankrupt. You think this is about getting her back, don't you? You're replaying the scene in your mind, 1,000 different scenarios where you say the right thing, where you have the perfect comeback, where you walk away with your head held high. You're searching for a strategy to reverse her decision, to prove to her that you are worthy of her attention, her desire, her respect. You're crafting the perfect text message, planning a chance encounter, thinking that if you can just explain yourself, if she can just see how much you've changed, she will realize her mistake. Stop. You are making the same catastrophic error all over again. You are still playing her game, by her rules, on a field where she is the only one who can ever win. Every move you make to win her back only confirms her decision to discard you. Every text, every call, every desperate plea for a second chance is another shovel of dirt on your own grave. You are screaming to the universe, and more importantly, to her, that your value is determined by her validation. You are begging for scraps from the table of a queen who has already moved on to a new feast. Ancient Stoics, masters of the human psyche and emotional warfare, understood a brutal truth that our modern world of empty platitudes refused. They knew that respect, particularly the visceral, primal respect that fuels attraction, is not a currency that can be negotiated. It cannot be earned back through pleading or performance. Once it is truly and fundamentally lost, it is gone forever. The philosopher Seneca wrote of the futility of seeking what is outside of your control, and what is more outside of your control than the internal world of another person. Her perception of you has been permanently altered. In her mind, a switch has been flipped. You are no longer the prize to be won. You are the obstacle that was overcome. Attempting to change this perception is like trying to argue with gravity. It is a waste of energy, a confirmation of weakness, and a pathetic display that only deepens her contempt. She doesn't see a man fighting for love. She sees a ghost rattling chains in a house she no longer lives in. She feels pity, then annoyance, and finally, a chilling indifference. Your pain is nothing more than background noise to her. If this cold, hard truth sends a shiver down your spine, if you recognize your own reflection in this portrait of humiliation, then you are in the right place. This is not a place for comfort or false hope. This is a war room for the mind. This is Dominio Psychologico. We do not deal in fantasies here. We deal in the brutal mechanics of power, perception, and control. If you are ready to stop playing the victim and start learning the strategies of the victor, then subscribe to this channel now. Activate all notifications because every video is a tactical briefing you cannot afford to miss. Like this video as a declaration that you are done with weakness. And in the comments below, I want you to do something specific. Tell us what city, what state, or what country you are watching this from. Let us know the territory you are operating from. And if you have the courage, share the name of the battle, the moment, the person, the humiliation that brought you here. The one that taught you that power is the only thing that truly matters. Your war stories are welcome here. This is a brotherhood of men who have been to the abyss and have decided to build a throne there. The question is no longer, how do I get her back? That is the question of a slave. The question now is, how do I build a version of myself so powerful, so self-contained, and so completely independent of her validation that her opinion of me becomes utterly and completely irrelevant. What happens when a man stops chasing a woman and starts chasing his own godhood? That is the journey we are about to embark on. Let's perform the autopsy. Before you can rebuild, you must first understand with surgical precision the exact cause of death. The death of her respect for you. This was not a sudden accident. It was a slow, systemic poisoning, and you were the one administering the dose, day after day, in 1,000 small acts of self-betrayal. You think her final act of public humiliation was the attack? You are mistaken. That was merely the moment the building, which had been rotting from the inside for months, or perhaps years, finally collapsed under its own weight. The foundation was gone long before the walls came down. What you experienced was not a murder, it was a demolition. The structure was already condemned. We must begin by dissecting the first and most critical strategic error, the phase of emotional concession. It begins innocently. So innocently, in fact, that you probably celebrated it as a victory for your relationship. It starts with a simple test. She wants to go to a restaurant you dislike. You had other plans, solid plans you were looking forward to. But she pouts. She expresses disappointment. Her emotional state wavers. And you, trained by a society that tells you a man's job is to make a woman happy, see this as your moment to be the good guy. You fold, you cancel your plans, you go to her restaurant. In your mind, you've scored a point. You've been accommodating. Shown you care. What you have actually done is communicate a devastating truth. Your desires are negotiable, but hers are not. You have just taught her that her emotional displeasure is a weapon that can be used to alter your reality. She tells you yielded. She won. This isn't about a single dinner. It's about the precedent. It escalates about the movie she wants to see, the friends she doesn't want you to hang out with. Each time you concede against your own genuine preference, not as a joyful compromise between two strong individuals, but as a placating maneuver to avoid her negative emotions, you are carving away a piece of your own sovereignty. You are telling her, my internal world is less important than your immediate emotional comfort. The man who consistently sacrifices his own plans, his own hobbies, his own principles to manage his partner's moods is not a man in a relationship. He is a hostage negotiator, and he is a terrible one, because he gives up everything before the demands are even fully stated. He thinks he is buying peace, but he is only funding the next war, and with each concession, the price goes up. You taught her that your no is just a yes that needs a little more emotional pressure. From this foundation of concession, the next stage is inevitable: the loss of frame control. Frame is the lens through which reality is interpreted in the relationship. Whoever controls the frame controls the dynamic. In the beginning, you likely held the frame. Your mission, your purpose, your way of viewing the world was the central gravity of the relationship. She was drawn to that strength, to that certainty. But with each emotional concession, you handed her a piece of that frame. Soon, she is not operating in your reality. You are desperately trying to survive in hers. Argument erupts. It's over something trivial, but her reaction is nuclear. She is emotional, perhaps illogical, but her feelings are powerful. Your instinct is to use logic, to reason, to explain your point of view. This is a catastrophic failure of strategy. You are bringing a spreadsheet to a gunfight. In her frame, the emotional reality is the only reality. Your logic is perceived not as a tool for resolution, but as an attack on her feelings, an invalidation of her experience. You see the distress this causes her. The argument escalates. The emotional storm intensifies. And you, exhausted and desperate for peace, do the one thing that guarantees your complete and utter defeat. You apologize. You say, "I'm sorry," not because you believe you were wrong, but because you can no longer tolerate the conflict. When you apologized, you signed your surrender. In that moment, you did not just end an argument. You validated her frame as the dominant one. You confirmed that in any future conflict, the person with the most intense emotional reaction wins. You taught her that she does not need to be rational. She does not need to be fair. She only needs to be upset. From that point on, you are no longer a partner. You are a functionary in her emotional government. Your job is to manage the state, and the state is her. You will find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, preemptively apologizing for things you haven't even done, all in a desperate attempt to prevent the next emotional storm. You have lost control of the narrative. Her perception is now your reality. This dynamic doesn't just stay in the home, it bleeds into your work. You become the employee who takes the blame to appease an irrational boss. You become the friend who gets walked over because you'd rather swallow your own anger than confront someone else's. You have lost the ability to define your own reality, and the world is more than happy to define it for you, always to your detriment. The third stage is the descent into the abyss of validation seeking. Having surrendered your own frame and your own desires, a void is created within you. Your sense of self, which was once internally generated, now requires an external source. And that source is her. Her approval becomes the drug you cannot live without. This is where you stop being a man and start being a performer. You start dressing for her. You parrot her opinions on politics, on art, on life, even if they contradict your own deeply held beliefs. You adopt hobbies you think will impress her, abandoning the ones that genuinely brought you joy. Your every action is filtered through a single, pathetic question. Will this make her happy? Will this make her see me as worthy? You post a picture on social media. You check your phone every 30 seconds to see if she liked it. That small, insignificant heart icon now holds the power to determine your mood for the entire day. He gives you a compliment, and you feel a euphoric rush, a temporary reprieve from the gnawing emptiness. She criticizes you, even gently, and your world collapses. You have outsourced your self-esteem. You have made another human being, a flawed and fickle human being, the arbiter of your worth. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned us that misery comes from wanting something that is not in our control. You have made her validation, the single most uncontrollable thing in the universe, the center of your existence. This is not attractive, it is repulsive. A woman is not attracted to a mirror. She is attracted to a mountain. She wants a man with his own unshakable sense of reality, his own purpose, his own internal validation. By trying to become what you think she wants, you destroy the very thing she was initially attracted to. You become a ghost, a hollow shell that changes shape with her every whim. She doesn't see a devoted partner, she sees a project. And then, she sees a burden. She feels contempt, the kind of contempt one feels for a servant who is trying too hard. She tested you, and you failed. You failed not by being imperfect, but by trying to be her perfect reflection. If you recognize yourself in this bleak diagnosis, if you can feel the cold truth of these words in your bones, then your re-education begins now. This is not about blame. It is about a brutally honest assessment of your tactical failures. To continue this strategic deep dive and to arm yourself against future defeats, subscribe to Dominio Psicologico immediately. Like this video to signal your commitment to reclaiming your power, and activate all notifications, because every lesson is a critical piece of your new arsenal. And in the comments, I want you to answer a specific question. It requires absolute honesty. How many times in the last month have you said yes when you wanted to say no, simply to avoid conflict or disapproval from someone else? Don't just give a number. Tell us the context. Was it with a partner, a boss, a friend? Let the world see the silent surrenders we all make. This is not a confession. It is an intelligence report for your own campaign. Perhaps you are listening to this, and an objection forms in your mind. But isn't this selfish? Isn't a relationship about compromise and putting the other person first? You have been poisoned by a sentimental lie. Compromise is a negotiation between two sovereign powers. It is a meeting in the middle. What you were doing was not compromise. It was capitulation. You were not meeting in the middle. You were retreating from your own territory, time and time again, until you had nothing left to defend. A man who puts a woman first, before his own purpose, his own principles, and his own soul, will soon find that he is the last thing on her list of priorities. You cannot give water from an empty well. By abandoning your own internal foundation, you had nothing of value left to offer her or the world. But I love her. I was just showing her how much I cared. Love is not weakness. Love is not the abdication of self. The love you were offering was not the love of a king for his queen. It was the desperate, cloying need of a beggar for a coin. That is not love. It is a transaction for validation, and the currency is your dignity. No one is coming to save you. You must save yourself by understanding that true love and attraction can only exist in the presence of respect, and respect cannot exist in the absence of a strong, self-contained identity. This leads us to the fourth, and perhaps most tragic stage: affective dependency. At this point, you are a full-blown addict. Her moods are no longer just information, they are your weather system. She wakes up happy. The sun is shining on your world. She is quiet or distant, and a cold front moves into your soul, bringing with it a storm of anxiety and insecurity. Start monitoring her tone of voice, her text response times, the slightest shift in her expression, trying to decipher her internal state because it has become a direct predictor of your own. You have completely lost the ability to self-regulate your emotions. Her happiness is your only source of joy, and her unhappiness is your greatest fear. You become a detective of her feelings, but a negligent guard of your own. You stop pursuing your goals because the risk of failure, and the potential for her disapproval, is too terrifying. Your world shrinks until it is the size of her. You cancel nights out with your friends if she's in a bad mood, not because she asks you to, but because you know you won't be able to enjoy yourself. The anxiety of what you might come home to is too overwhelming. You are no longer living your life. You are living a reaction to her life. This is the point where you cease to be a partner and become a project, and then a weight. She may not even realize it consciously, but she will begin to feel it. She will feel the immense pressure of being responsible for another adult's entire emotional ecosystem, suffocating. She will feel your neediness like a physical weight, and her attraction will curdle into a mixture of pity and resentment. She will start to pull away, not out of malice, but out of a primal need for oxygen. She needs space from the black hole of your emotional need. And her pulling away, her need for space, triggers the final, catastrophic stage: the breaking of the silence. For a man who has lost his frame, silence is torture. For the man in control, silence is a tool. It is a space for thought, for strategy, for allowing the other person to confront their own feelings. For the dependent man, her silence is a void, an absence of the validation he needs to survive. It is proof that he has failed. Her silence is dominance, not inattention. It is a strategic position of power. She is waiting. She is observing. She knows that if she just waits long enough, you will break. And you always do. You send the first text. Is everything okay? An hour passes. No reply. The anxiety builds into a panic. You send another. We need to talk. You are now begging. You are communicating pure, unadulterated desperation. You are showing her that you cannot handle the emotional tension. You cannot sit with uncertainty. You need her to regulate your own anxiety. You call. She doesn't answer. You call again. You leave a long, rambling voicemail, your voice cracking with a mixture of feigned anger and raw panic, laying out all your insecurities, pleading for a response. You have just taken every last shred of mystery, of dignity, of power you had left, and you have lit it on fire in a pathetic bonfire for her to watch. Every unanswered text, every ignored call, is another nail in the coffin of her respect for you. You are confirming her decision to withdraw. You are proving to her that you are, in fact, the weak, emotionally unstable man she has begun to suspect you are. When you begged for her attention, you signed your death warrant. All was not visible to the public. It happened in the silence between your text messages. It happened in the hesitation before you spoke your mind. It happened in every yes you uttered when your soul screamed no. The public humiliation was just the tombstone placed upon a grave you had been digging for yourself all along. The question is not how you ended up in that grave. The question is, do you have the will to claw your way out? There is no going back for the weak. There is only the construction of the new. Let that sentence burn itself into your mind, because it is the foundational law of your new reality. The man you were is dead. He died in that room, under the weight of her contempt and the silence of the crowd. Do not mourn him. Do not try to resurrect him. To do so is to wish for the return of your own weakness. Your task now is not one of recovery. It is one of demolition and reconstruction. You will tear down the ruins of the man who begged for approval, and on that cleared ground, you will build a fortress. This is not an emotional process. This is a tactical operation. Your feelings are irrelevant. They are battlefield noise, a distraction from the mission. The mission is the forging of a new self, one so absolute in its own frame that the opinions of others, especially hers, become nothing more than distant weather reports from a country you no longer inhabit. Your reconstruction begins with 3 primary directives, commands to be executed with the cold precision of a special operator. First, cut the excess. Second, install the silence. Third, control the reaction. These are not suggestions. They are the articles of your new constitution. Let's begin with the first command, cut the excess. This is a scorched earth policy enacted upon your own life. You will immediately and without warning cease all contact. This is not going no contact in the pathetic way most men do it, where they announce their departure like a child threatening to run away from home, secretly hoping to be chased. That is a plea for attention disguised as a show of strength. Your disappearance will be absolute. You will block her number. You will block her on every social media platform. You will not just unfollow, you will block, ensuring she cannot see your life, and you cannot be tempted to see hers. You are performing a surgical amputation of her presence from your world. You will erase her digital ghost from your machine. Every picture, every old message thread, every saved voicemail, delete it, burn it. This is not about erasing memory. It is about refusing to live in a museum dedicated to your own failure. It is a ritual cleansing. You are clearing your operational theater of all enemy intelligence and all sentimental landmines. The man who wants to be loved will be discarded. The man who imposes his presence will be feared. Choosing absolute absence, you are imposing your presence more powerfully than 1,000 desperate text messages ever could. You become a question in her mind, a void where your predictable neediness used to be. The second directive, install the silence. After you have cut all lines of communication, she may attempt to breach your perimeter. She might text from a friend's phone, send an email, or use a mutual acquaintance as a probe. This is a test. She is testing to see if the old weak man is still in there, waiting by the phone, desperate for a sign. Your response to these probes is the single most important battle you will fight in the early stages of your reconstruction. And your weapon is absolute, unwavering silence. Reaches out, you do not respond. Not with anger, not with a cold, one-word answer. You respond with nothing. Your silence is not an absence of communication. It is the most powerful communication you have left. It says, your access to me has been revoked. Your words no longer have currency in my reality. You are speaking into a void because to me, you no longer exist on the strategic map. Every moment you do not respond, you are retaking territory in her mind. You are forcing her to confront the consequences of her actions without the comfort of your emotional reaction. The old you would have seen her message and felt a jolt of hope or a surge of anger. The new you sees it as a blip on a radar screen, an object to be observed, analyzed, and ignored. You are demonstrating that your emotional state is no longer tethered to her actions. You have achieved emotional sovereignty. Do not reconquer. Replace with a sharper silence. Your non-response is a declaration of dominance. Communicates that you are the one who now decides the terms of engagement, and the current term is non-engagement. You are teaching her, and more importantly, yourself, that your attention is a resource, and you have cut off her supply line. This leads to the third and most critical directive: control the reaction. This is the internal war. While you are projecting silence and absence to the outside world, you will be rebuilding your inner world from the ground up. This is where you redirect every ounce of energy you once wasted on her, the anxiety, the hope, the anger, the obsessive thinking, and you channel it into the relentless pursuit of hierarchy. This is a total focus on your physical, financial, social, and symbolic value. Physically, the gym becomes your temple and your forge. You will not train to look good for her or for any other woman. You will train to become disciplined, to master pain, to transform your body into a physical manifestation of your will. Every rep, every drop of sweat, is you rebuilding your own frame. Your body is your armor and your primary weapon. Financially, you will become obsessed with your mission. Your work, your business, your craft. It becomes your holy war. Every dollar you earn, every skill you acquire, is another brick in the wall of your independence. Money is not for impressing her. It is a tool for freedom. It buys you options, it buys you time, and it buys you the power to shape your reality according to your own design. Socially, you will rebuild your tribe. You will reconnect with the male friends you neglected. You will build a network of allies, mentors, and brothers in arms. Your social value must not be derived from a single person. It must be a web, a network that you command. A man with a powerful tribe is a man who cannot be easily broken. Finally, and most importantly, you will cultivate your symbolic value. This is your purpose, your mission beyond yourself. What do you stand for? What code do you live by? The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote that true power lies in the internal citadel, the part of you that fortune cannot touch. Your mission is the construction of that citadel. You become a man so engrossed in his own grand purpose that a past relationship becomes a minor footnote in your biography. This is the ultimate reframing. She did not leave you. She was released from her role in your story so you could focus on the main plot. She was a catalyst, not the prize. This entire process is a plan, not a hope. It is a series of executable steps designed to create a specific outcome. The birth of a man who is completely and utterly self-contained. A man whose sense of worth is generated internally, immune to external validation or criticism. Be an absence that has weight, not a presence that begs. Your absence, fueled by your relentless self-improvement, becomes a force of nature. It will weigh on her mind far more than your constant presence ever did. If this battle plan resonates with the strategist in you, if you are ready to stop being a casualty and start being a commander, then your enlistment begins now. Subscribe to Dominio Psicologico and activate all notifications, because every piece of content is a vital intelligence briefing for your campaign. Like this video as a signal that you are committed to this war of reconstruction. And in the comments below, I want you to make a public declaration. Answer this question. What is the single most powerful, non-negotiable standard you will install in your life, starting today? Will it be an unbreakable commitment to your physical training? A ruthless dedication to your financial goals? An absolute refusal to apologize for your own frame? State your new law. Let this comment section be the place where you sign your own declaration of independence. This is not about getting her to see your value. This is about building a version of yourself so powerful that you are no longer concerned with who is watching. The goal is not for her to want you back. The goal is to build a kingdom where she is no longer qualified for citizenship. And so, the inevitable happens. After months, perhaps a year of your absolute deafening silence, the signal appears on your radar. It will not be a grand declaration. It will be a quiet probe, a single text message, an email, or a chance encounter engineered with the precision of a military ambush. It will arrive late at night, the witching hour when memories and regrets hold the most power. The message will be simple, a masterpiece of plausible deniability. Hey, I was just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Or perhaps, I drove past that place we used to go to. Do not be fooled. This is not a peace offering. This is not a moment of genuine remorse. It is the final test. She is not reaching out to the man you have become. She is probing for the ghost of the man you were. She is checking to see if the supplicant, the validation seeker, the emotional hostage is still in there, waiting to be activated by a single breadcrumb of her attention. The old you, the man who died in that room, would have felt a jolt of electricity. His heart would have hammered against his ribs, a toxic cocktail of hope and adrenaline flooding his system. He would have seen this message as a victory, a sign that his pain had finally registered, that she had realized her mistake. He would have spent hours crafting the perfect reply, something cool but not too cold, interested but not desperate. He would have re-entered the game, believing he now had the upper hand, only to find himself right back in the same psychological prison, this time as a willing inmate. The man you are now, the man forged in the silent fire of your own discipline, sees this message for what it is: a tactical maneuver from a deposed power. It is a blip on a screen, data to be analyzed, not an emotion to be felt. Your heart rate remains steady. Your mind remains clear. You see the move, you recognize the strategy, and you understand your countermove has already been in play for months. Your response is the culmination of your entire reconstruction. It is not anger. Anger is a confession that you are still wounded. It is not a lecture. A lecture is a plea to be understood. It is not a cold, one-word reply. That is a performance of indifference, not the genuine article. Your response is far more devastating. You read the message. Place your phone face down on the table, and you return to your life. You return to reading your book. You return to your work. You go to the gym. You do nothing. Your silence, once a shield born of pain, has now been weaponized into the ultimate expression of dominance. Her message is left on read. It is an unanswered signal in the cold, infinite vacuum of your new reality. You are not ignoring her to punish her. You are not ignoring her to make a point. You are ignoring her because her communication is now, and forever will be, completely and utterly irrelevant to your mission. You have moved beyond her orbit. Her gravitational pull no longer affects you. You must understand the profound strategic power of this non-action. Revenge is an emotional transaction. It keeps you tethered to the person who wronged you, locked in a dark dance of action and reaction. It means they still occupy real estate in your mind. The man who seeks revenge is still a slave to the past. What you are executing is not revenge, it is transcendence. You have not flipped the chessboard to scatter her pieces in anger. You have simply stood up from the table, walked out of the room, and dedicated your life to building a kingdom so vast and magnificent that the memory of that tiny, insignificant game is lost in the grandeur of your creation. Her attempt to reconnect is the knock of a peasant on the gates of an emperor's palace. Emperor doesn't feel anger or triumph. He feels nothing. He doesn't even hear the knock. This is the final reframing. She did not break you. She revealed a weakness that needed to be purged. Her public execution of your social value was not a murder. It was a necessary amputation. He cut away the diseased part of you that was addicted to external validation, forcing you to grow back stronger, harder, and more self-contained than you ever could have been with her. She was a catalyst, a harsh and brutal instrument of your own evolution. You owe her nothing, not even the satisfaction of your hatred. Your success, your power, your unshakable internal frame, that is not for her to see. It is for you to inhabit. Respect is not something you beg for a second chance to earn. Respect is the silent, unavoidable consequence of power. It is imposed by your absence, by your discipline, by the cold, hard fact that your world no longer requires, or even acknowledges hers. The version of you she discarded is gone forever. The version of you that exists now is one she is not qualified to know. This final doctrine of absolute self-sovereignty is the law you are ready to live by. Then your enlistment in this new order is complete. Subscribe to Dominio Psicologico and activate all notifications, because this is not a channel. It is a permanent strategic command center for your mind. Like this video as a final declaration that the old you is dead and buried. And in the comments below, answer this one final critical question. The man she knew is gone, and a new man stands in his place. What is the one law, the one non-negotiable principle that this new man will live by for the rest of his days? Write your new code. Let the world see the constitution of your new inner kingdom. This is not just a comment. It is your oath of allegiance to yourself. The greatest victory is not that she wants you back. The greatest victory is that it no longer matters.